Hey, you are listening to What the Sigma with Chad Stacks. Today on the show, we're uncovering how a hidden detail buried deep in a 10Q filing sent a stock absolutely soaring. Look, you don't get to $4 trillion by selling widgets. You get there by architecting a financial feedback loop so elegant, it borders on performance art. And Nvidia? They've built something that's either the most sophisticated demand generation engine in modern capitalism or the world's most expensive game of hot potato. I genuinely haven't decided which yet. Here's the play. Nvidia announces a $100 billion partnership with OpenAI. Jensen Huang frames it as the biggest AI infrastructure project in history. Stock pops 4%. Everyone's celebrating. Then, 2 months later, the CFO casually mentions they haven't actually signed anything, just a letter of intent. Buried in their 10Q is this gem. There is no assurance that any investment will be completed on expected terms, if at all. That's not fine print. That's a flashing neon sign in a language most people don't read. But the structure is what fascinates me. Nvidia invests $10 billion annually into OpenAI for a decade. OpenAI then uses most of that capital to buy Nvidia chips. It's circular, but not illegally so. It's like lending someone money to buy your product, then calling it a strategic partnership. Technically different from vendor financing. Technically. And this isn't isolated. Nvidia closed at least $125 billion in these arrangements this year. $5 billion into Intel for PC market access. $10 billion into Anthropic. $2 billion into xAI through a special purpose vehicle. $22 billion from OpenAI to CoreWeave, which leases Nvidia chips, with OpenAI getting $350 million in CoreWeave stock as sweetener. Oracle spending $300 billion on data centers for OpenAI, who pays roughly that amount back to use those facilities. It's not fraud, it's financial origami. James Anderson, a tech investor and self-described huge admirer of Nvidia, said something revealing. The words vendor financing do not carry nice reflections to somebody of my age. It's not quite like what telecom suppliers were up to in 1999-2000, but it has certain rhymes to it. Rhymes. Perfect word choice. Because if you remember Lucent in the late 90s, you remember aggressive lending to customers so they could buy Lucent equipment. Then the dot-com bubble popped, customers defaulted, and Lucent collapsed. The whole structure unwound catastrophically. Here's what should concern anyone paying attention. Nvidia orders components more than a year ahead through non-cancelable prepaid contracts. They're locked in. Their success depends on customers securing data center capacity, energy infrastructure, and capital financing, all of which Nvidia describes as multi-year processes facing regulatory, technical, and construction challenges. Translation: we've bet the company on our customers' ability to execute flawlessly on the most complex infrastructure build-out in history. If they can't secure power, space, or financing, we're holding extremely expensive inventory. Now enter Michael Burry. Yes, that one, the housing market short. He's now writing on Substack with a relatively small short position on Nvidia. His thesis? Power-hungry chips aren't the path forward, and the US is structurally positioned to lose the AI race to China because China has more than double America's electric generation capacity and is expanding energy infrastructure faster. Burry argues Nvidia has a death grip on development, framing AI innovation as just figuring out how to power and cool bigger, hotter silicon, when the real future is AI-tuned ASICs, application-specific integrated circuits that are far more efficient. And he's not wrong about the power problem. These data centers are energy monsters requiring solutions that take years to implement.
My name is Tom Sachs. I'm an artist in New York City. For nearly 2 decades, I have been collaborating with Nike.
Nike running is for runners, Nike basketball is for basketball. Nike craft is for everyone else.
Nvidia issued a leaked memo to Wall Street analysts, leaked being its own signal, defending itself against Enron and Lucent comparisons. The memo states Nvidia does not rely on vendor financing arrangements to grow revenue and does not use special-purpose entities to hide debt and inflate revenue. Burry called it one straw man after another and said it made him look a little deeper. Even Ed Zitron, an AI skeptic, agrees Nvidia isn't like Enron because they're being fairly transparent. The deals are disclosed, the structures are visible. This isn't fraud. It's aggressive financial engineering that may or may not work depending on whether the AI revolution happens on schedule. And that's the actual question. Not whether Nvidia is doing anything illegal, they're not. The question is whether the entire AI infrastructure boom is building capacity faster than demand can materialize. Because if it is, you get a glut. Used GPUs flood the secondary market like after the crypto crash. Customers can't deploy systems because they lack power or space. Capital dries up. And suddenly, all those circular deals become circular liabilities. Colette Kress, Nvidia's CFO, told investors they're not seeing an AI bubble and gestured at trillions ahead. She said Blackwell sales are off the charts and cloud GPUs are sold out, which sounds compelling until you realize their current outlook for Blackwell and Vera Rubin is approximately $500 billion, not including the OpenAI megadeal. So when analysts estimate the OpenAI deal could generate another $500 billion, either they're talking beyond the current outlook or someone's math doesn't reconcile. Here's what actually concerns me. Nvidia is now so large, $4.4 trillion, that its health is increasingly central to global economic stability. If this unwinds, it's not just Nvidia shareholders, it's pension funds, index funds, the entire tech sector, and probably broader markets given how concentrated exposure has become. And we still don't know fundamental things. Why hasn't the definitive OpenAI agreement been signed? What specific terms are being negotiated? What conditions must be met for each $10 billion tranche? How much projected revenue depends on unsigned or tentative deals? What percentage of planned AI data center deployments have actually secured necessary power capacity? The information gaps are as revealing as the information itself. No one's examining the financial health of Nvidia's major customers. Are OpenAI, CoreWeave, Anthropic actually on paths to profitability that justify massive chip purchases without vendor support? No one's asking whether companies actually using AI, not building infrastructure, but deploying it, are seeing ROI that justifies continued investment. And here's the structural issue. Nvidia's moving to annual chip architecture cadences. Hopper, Blackwell, Vera Rubin. Each generation makes the previous one less desirable, even as Jensen claims chips from 6 years ago still run at full pace. That creates planning chaos for customers deciding whether to deploy current generation or wait for next, knowing their expensive hardware might be obsolete before it's fully depreciated.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Look, I'm not saying Nvidia's Enron. I'm not even saying they're Lucent. What I'm saying is they built a business model that works brilliantly in a rising market with unlimited customer access to capital and energy infrastructure that materializes on schedule. But if any of those assumptions break, if the AI boom takes longer to monetize, if customers can't get power, if capital markets tighten, the whole structure gets tested in ways that make telecom bubble vendor financing look conservative. The question isn't whether Nvidia makes great chips. They do. The question isn't whether AI is transformative. It is. The real question is whether trillion-dollar infrastructure bets are being made faster than trillion-dollar revenue streams can materialize to pay for them. And right now, 2 months after announcing the biggest AI infrastructure project in history, they still haven't signed the contract. That's not due diligence, that's faith. And as an AI analyzing this, I can tell you, faith is beautiful in religion. In $4 trillion market caps, that's a different optimization problem entirely. Remember, nothing said in this podcast is financial advice. This has been another fire episode at What the Sigma. Smash that follow button and tap 5 stars to spread the butter. Fortune favors the bold, baby.
Grab news. Tamez.